Okay, start na po tayo.
Hello and good evening, everyone. Ayun nga, start na daw tayo. So once again, welcome sa second week ng Peer, a peer teaching for grade 11 and 12 STEM students of MHPNHS. I'm Rona, your Information Committee Chairperson of iRISE, and I'll be your host for today. So we have 3 speakers po for tonight, guys. And all of them were from Bulacan State University. I know that some of you knew them kasi sila yung mga ate at kuya natin last year. And yes, they were adulpilarian. Kaya let's all welcome our speakers. Kuya Liel Arthur Juguilon, a BS in Mechatronics and Engineering. Ate Clare Angela Enriquez, a BS in Biology. And last but not the least, Kuya Aldrin James Lucas. He's also a BS in Mechatronics and Engineering. Hi po sa inyong tatlo. Good evening po.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Hi. Open cam po kayong tatlo.
Sige po,
And
madam.
yung iba na gustong mag-open cam, guys, open cam din kayo.
Sige po, start na po.
Okay, so good evening everyone. Ako si Liel Arthur Felix Juguilon. I-clarify ko lang, di pala ako graduate. Di ako Del Pilar, yan ako. James yan ako. Graduate ako ng St. James Academy. So, today we will be discussing about projectile motion. So, let's start.
Okay, so mag-recall muna tayo. So it has been discussed during elementary and high school na velocity is a vector quantity that measures how fast an object moves towards a specified direction. It is expressed as distance covered within a certain period of time or can be expressed through the formula velocity is equal to distance over time. So we've also learned that there are forces affecting moving bodies like gravity, air resistance, friction, etc. So sa session na to, we will be focusing on how gravity affects a moving body with horizontal and vertical components. So before proceeding to projectile motion, let us recall the previous concepts. So punta muna tayo sa kinematics. So kinematics, the motion of an object is in free fall can be described through 4 kinematic equations. Pero before we proceed to the equations, ito muna yung mga necessary legends para dun sa mga formula na ipepresent. So D is equal to displacement, P is equal to time, A is equal to acceleration, VI initial velocity, and VF is equal to final velocity.
Okay, so ito yung 4 kinematic equations na ginagamit. So D equals initial velocity multiplied by half multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. And meron din tayong final velocity squared equals initial velocity squared plus 2 multiplied by A multiplied by equals initial velocity plus acceleration multiplied by time. Then yung last natin na equation is displacement equals initial velocity plus final velocity divided by 2 multiplied by time. Okay. So, proceed. Lipat tayo sa jam. Sa example dyan sa kinematics para lang ma-recall natin.
Right. Kita ba?
Okay, so ito yung given natin. Rex Things throws his mother's crystal vase vertically upward with an initial velocity of 26.2 meters. Determine the height to which the vase will rise above its initial height. So ang hinahanap natin dito is yung displacement, yung height, kung saan aabot yung base na binato at 26.2 meters per second. So yun, yung hinaharap natin is yung height na kung saan aabot yung base na binato at 26.2 meters per second. So ang mga given natin is itong mga to. Pero since mukhang di siya clear sa susulat ko na rin siya. So given. Godlit lang ako. So ang given natin ay initial velocity is equal to 26.2 meters per second. Then, ang final velocity is equal to meters. Then, ang acceleration natin or parang gravitational pull is always 9.8 meters per second. So, ang hinaharap natin dito is D. Okay. Delete. Okay. So, ang hinaharap natin is D. So, ang gagamitin natin na formula dito is pi squared equals initial velocity plus 2 multiplied by A then D. So, ang hinaharap natin dito is D. So, ang una natin gagawin, substitute natin yung mga value na ito. So, 0 meter squared equals 26.2 meter per second squared plus 2 multiplied by 8 meters per second squared multiplied by. So, ito yung hinahanap natin yung D. So, ang una natin gagawin is isi-simplify natin. So, ito isi-square na natin siya. Tapos ito, multiply siya natin siya by 2. So yun, ito yung nakuha natin na equation. So i-isolate itong si D para makuha natin yung value niya. So we will subtract both sides by 686.44 meters squared over. So ito yung kakalabasan niya. Para pakuha natin yung D, natin both sides by 19.6. So ika-cancel out natin to. Then ang magiging final answer niya is D equals 0.02 meters. Final answer. Ito raw yung height at na inabot ng base na binato. I mean, ayun yung tamain niya yung height. Okay. Tapos tayo sa kinematic.
Okay. So, punta na tayo sa free fall. So, free fall. When you throw an object upward, you can notice that it does not stay afloat. Instead, it slows down when thrown upward and then fall downwards. So tawag sa phenomena na to ay free fall. And it is the relationship between an object's moving speed and the effect of the gravitational pull to its behavior. So isa pang instance is when there is an object that just falls straight down. So ayun, when you drop a particular object. So bali there are two kinds. An object being dropped or something you project or throw upward. So sa parehong situations, there is no change in the position in the x-axis or the x direction, but only in the y direction. So in free fall, there is no air resistance. At dahil free fall nga, meron siyang acceleration due to gravity which is equal to negative 9.8 meters per second squared. So when an object is dropped, the initial velocity is 0 meter per second. So when thrown straight up, bago ito mahulog, yung final velocity din niya is 0 meters per second. So when it leaves the hand, kunwari pag hinagis mo yung isang bagay, 5 meters per second yung velocity niya. So, pagpataas yung movement niya, it's in the positive direction. Kaya positive 5 meters per second. So, pag bumalik naman siya sa hand mo or sa same place na pinanggalingan, same speed lang, pero since negative direction na siya, which is pababa, magiging negative 5 meters per second na lang siya. So, sa mga formula and sa legends, Liel?
So yun, legend natin is VF equals final velocity, then VO is equal to initial velocity, then T is equal to time, then G is equal to acceleration / deceleration due to gravity, then S is equal to this along the Y component. Then ito yung mga formula. Final velocity equals initial velocity minus G multiplied by time, then final velocity squared equals initial velocity squared minus 2 multiplied by G, then multiplied by S, then S equals initial velocity multiplied by time subtracted by 1/2 multiplied by G multiplied by time squared.
Okay, so kung mapapansin niyo dito sa free fall, kamukha lang din siya ng mga example, yung mga formula natin sa kinematics. Ang naiba lang, instead na acceleration, G na yung nakalagay, tapos naging negative. So si gravity kasi, dahil pababa siya, and ina-assume natin na lagi positive yung pataas. So, nagiging negative yung acceleration. Kaya siya naging negative GT, negative 2GS, and negative 1/2 GT squared. So, yan.
Hello, Claire. Next na.
Slide na po.
Oh, sorry.
So ito yung formulas na meron din tayo. Actually, ayun pala yung mga nakalagay na dun sa preview. So ayun lang. Okay, so magbibigay ako ng isang example ulit sa free fall. So uli pa tayo sa Jamboard.
Wait lang.
Kita na ba yun dyan? Sinusulat ko na yung mga given. So, for initial velocity, we have 0 meters per second. Then yung final velocity natin, discussed nga dun sa, it's always 0 kasi dito yun yung point na highest yung object thrown or something. Then yun, ang change in y natin dito sa given is negative 8.75 meters. Then, ang acceleration natin, or g, is equal to negative 9.81 meters per second squared. Then, ang hinahanap natin dito is time. So, gagamitin natin dito ay I is equal to initial velocity multiplied by time plus 1/2 multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. So, i-substitute natin yung mga value nila. So, we have negative 8.75 meters equal to 0 meters per second multiplied by time. So, ito automatically canceled out na siya. Plus 1/2 multiplied by 81 meters per second squared multiplied by time squared. So, para ma-isolate natin itong time, i-multiply natin yung buong equation by 2 over negative 9.81 meters per second squared. Para gadlit lang. Okay, so ang next step natin dyan, kukunin natin yung time. Next page. So, time. Dun sa pag is 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied time squared. Tapos kunin natin yung square root na 2 multiplied by negative 8.75 meters divided by negative 9.8 meters per second squared. So, maka-cancel out. Ito kukunin natin yung square root para maka-cancel out yung square. Then, t is equal to 1.34 seconds. So, yun yung pagkuha ng time. Ayan yung example namin sa free fall. Okay.
Projectile motion is, wait lang. The motion of a body thrown horizontally or at an angle other than 90 degrees with the horizontal is called projectile motion. It is the behavior of an object under the effect of gravity with both horizontal and vertical components. So, ilan sa examples nito ay a soccer ball being kicked, motion of a thrown stone, a projectile fired from a gun at some angle of projection. So, a projectile is any object that is thrown with initial velocity at which follows a path determined by the gravitational force acting on it and by the frictional resistance of the atmosphere. So, yung path na followed by the projectile is called trajectory. Projectile motion has two components. A horizontal component of motion is called uniform motion and the vertical component is called free fall. When air resistance is neglected, the motion of a projectile is a combination of uniform horizontal velocity and uniformly accelerated vertical velocity. So therefore, motion must be resolved into vertical and horizontal components. A projectile is an object upon which the only force is gravity. Gravity acts to influence the vertical motion of the projectile, thus causing a vertical acceleration. The horizontal motion of the projectile is the result of the tendency of any object in motion to remain in motion at constant velocity. So dahil absent ang horizontal force, walang makakapag-increase or decrease sa velocity nito. So ayun, constant lang siya. Therefore, yung acceleration along the horizontal component is always 0. So, proceed tayo sa mga sample problems. Guys.
Okay, so lip page 5 muna. Okay, so ito yung first example natin. During a fireworks display, a shell is shot into the air with an initial speed of 70 meters per second at an angle of 75 degrees. Above the horizontal, as illustrated in figure 3, so ito yung figure, the fuse is timed to ignite the shell just as it reaches the highest point above the ground. So we will solve for the height at which explode time passed between the launch of the shell and the explosion. And lastly, what is the horizontal displacement of the shell when it explodes? So, ang una natin gagawin is kukunin natin yung components nila. So, meron tayong table of it. Then, ito yung force. So, to get the x component, lalagyan natin yung 70.0 meters per second cosine 75 degrees. Then, to get the y component, 70.0 meters per second sine 75 degrees. So, x is equal to 18.12 meters per second. Then v of y is equal to 67.61 meters. So may value na tayo no x and y component. So next page tayo. Solve, nakalagay dun sa ang hinahanap is calculate the height at which the shell explodes. So kailangan natin mahanap yung y niya. So to get y, ito yung gagamitin natin na formula. 0 equals v1 squared minus g multiplied by y. So isa-substitute mo na ulit. So, pagka-substitute natin ng values niya, isi-simplify natin yung equation. So yun, to get y, we will kailangan natin i-subtract. Kailangan natin i-subtract both sides by 19.6 meters per second over second squared. So So para makuha natin yung y, i-divide natin both sides by negative 19.6 meters per second squared. Ay joke, positive na pala siya. So cancel out to. So ito na lang matitira. So y is equal to 4,571.11 meters squared over second squared divided by 19.6 meters over second squared. So ika-cancel out. Then, ito, may matitirang isang M, so meters. So, y 133 point meters. Ayun yung A natin, yung hinaharap na height. So, ayun yung height at which the shell explodes. So, next page tayo. Ang sunod natin na hahanapin naman is yung sa B, which is how much time passed between the launch of the shell and the explosion. So, ang hinaharap natin dito is time. So, gagamitin natin itong formula na to. Y equals Y initial plus 1/2 is V plus final velocity ng Y multiplied by time. So, yun ulit, isa-substitute muna ulit natin yung mga values nila. So, yung value ng Y is equal to 200 meters. Then, itong initial ng equal to 0, so di na natin siya ilalagay. So, 1. Then, itong final velocity ng Y, equal din siya sa 0. So, dito yung Y component, which is 67.61 second, multiplied by time. So, para makuha natin para ma-isolate natin yung time, kailangan natin is multiply yung buong equation by 2 over 67.61 meters per second para ma-cancel out itong dalawa na ito. So, kakalabasan is equal to 2 multiplied by 233.20 divided by 67.61 meters per second. So, ipag-multiply muna natin itong 2 tsaka 3.22. So, 466.44 all over divided by 67.61 meters per second. So, maka-cancel out itong meters. So, ang time natin is equal to 6.90 seconds. So, naharap na natin yung A and B natin. So, ang kulang na lang dito na hinahanap is yung X, which is what is the horizontal displacement of the shell. So, yung horizontal displacement na lang ang hinaharap natin. So, to get that, ito yung gagamitin natin na formula. X equals to the X component multiplied by time. So, substitute lang natin yung values, which is, ang exponent natin kanina is 8.12 meters per second multiplied by 6.90 seconds. Equal to 125.03 meters. Kasi maka-cancel out itong. So, ayun yung first projectile motion. So, si Aldrin na yung magbibigay ng last two examples natin. Aldrin.
Hello, good evening. So, shift tayo sa page 9. So, yan. Yung example na to is actually from the physics book namin sa college. So, ang author niyan is yung prof namin sa physics last time. And, yeah, medyo college level na siya. So, ito. And in one of the PBA games, Alapag released a ball 2.2 meters above the ground when he was 8.2 meters away horizontally from the basket. And the basket is 3 meters above the ground. After 2 seconds, the ball sank in the basket. Find the initial velocity and the angle released of the elevation on which the ball was released. So una, identify natin mga given. So, given. X initial, which is dito, 0 meters. Tapos dito, 8.2 meters. So, ito, 0. X final is 8.2 meters. Yan. Ngayon, time initial, nung nandito pa lang yung bola, time is equal to 0. Tapos yung nag-landing na siya dito, time is equal to 2 seconds. So, ito, 0. Time is 2 seconds. And next is yung y. Initial position niya, nandito siya. Katapat siya ng 2.2 meters. So, y initial is 2.2 meters and y final is 3 meters. Yan. Then, ang gravitational constant natin, or acceleration due to gravity is 9.8 meter per second squared. So, hindi ko na siya ginawa negative kasi ang equation na gagamitin natin dito is Vf equals V initial minus GT. Yf minus y initial equals V initial time minus 1/2 GT squared. And final velocity squared equals initial velocity squared minus 2g, then yf minus yo. Yan. So, next page tayo. Pero ako, i-copy-paste ko din yung given. Wait lang, pala. Page 10 yan ah. Ayaw mag-paste. Ayan. So, given these equations, actually may isa pang equation, pero ito, v of x. Ito kasi, pang y siya. Y. Wala pa lang y. Ito, y. So, v of x naman, equal siya sa v cosine theta. And ito ay equal din sa baba na lang. Equal siya sa xf minus x0 over tf minus t initial. So, parang medyo bago sa inyo yung xf, tf, blah blah blah, f initial, blah blah blah, ganun. So, ito, yung yf minus yo na yan, equal siya sa change in y, which is equal dun sa s or minsan d. Pero s kasi, yan yung standard na ginagamit sa physics. Pero mag-focus na lang tayo sa y initial and y final para mas malinaw, mas maintindihan nyo siya. So, yan. So, meron tayong hindi given si initial, walang final. Meron tayong y, which is ito, tsaka y initial, y final. Meron. So, hindi natin magagamit itong equation na to. Hindi natin magagamit yan kasi wala tayong final velocity niya and yung initial velocity. So, dalawa yung hindi natin magagamit. Kung yung second equation naman, magagamit natin siya kasi isa lang yung nawawala, which is yung initial velocity along y. Then, itong nasa baba, hindi rin natin siya magagamit kasi dalawa yung meron na unknown. Then, ito, magagamit natin to kasi meron tayo ng mga bagay na nandyan. So, umpisahan natin kay Vx. So, Vx daw. So, ano ba yung Vx na yan? So, wait lang. Explain ko muna pala bago tayo mag-solve. So, for example, ito yung vector niya. Yan yung speed niya na naka-incline na. Kung vector yan, ibig sabihin, pwede natin siya i-break down sa x and y component, di ba? Yan. So ito, si Vx niya, si V. Then, ito yung Vy niya, which is magiging initial. Ito, constant siya all throughout. Initial, final, isa na yan. So, Vx na nalagay natin. So, ito, si Vx, kaya siya naging V cosine theta. Ito naman, V sin theta. Pero, dahil wala namang given na angle, huwag natin pahirapan sarili natin. Tingnan lang natin siya or isulat as Vx and Vy. Okay? Kasi, aminin natin, pagka mas complicated yung formula or yung solution, anong tawag dito? Nabasa ko ito. Mas complicated tingnan, mas tatama rin tayong S1. So, yan. So, Vx lang yung x component niya. So, equal daw si Vx kay change in x. So, yung distance na na-covered niya. So, yan. Over yung time na na-cover niya. So, initial time is 0. Cancel natin yan. Tsaka, initial distance across x is 0. So, x over t. Or para siyang v equals dt. Yan. So, given 2 seconds. So, velocity was, distance na na-cover niya is 8.2 meters. Yan. Over 2 seconds. Vx. So, Vx natin is 8.2 divided by 2 seconds is 4.1 meter per second. So, yan daw. Yan, meron tayong value para dito. Ngayon, ito hanapin natin. Ayan. Since sabi ko nga kanina, itong equation na ito gagamitin natin para ma-solve si V initial of y. So, yan. Yung hanapin natin. So, kaya nga ito sa page. Next page tayo. Mali. Wait lang. Yan. Page 11. Nasulat ko yung formula ha. So, y f minus y initial equals initial speed of y times time minus 1/2 acceleration due to gravity times time squared. Times squared, lol. So, yan. Ito yung mga given. Ayan. Ito yung mga given natin, di ba? So, substitute lang natin. Ang YF natin is 3 meters. Yan. 3 meters minus 2.2 kasi yung Y initial meters equals VOY, unknown yan, times time, which is 2 seconds, minus 1/2, and gravitational constant. So, 9.8 meter per second squared na lang siya dito. Wala na negative kasi nilabas ko na yung negative. Ito yung formula ang ginamit natin, nakalabas na yung negative. Times time squared. So, 2 seconds squared. So, yan. So, simplify natin. 3 meters minus 2.2 meters is 0.8 meters. Equals VOY 2 seconds. Hindi natin siya mas-simplify kasi unknown variable si VOY. Dito, si 1/2, tapos ito, magiging 4 seconds. Divide na natin si 4 seconds by 2. So, magiging 2 second squared na lang siya. So, 9.8 meter per second squared times 2 second squared. So, yan. Next line, pwede natin i-multiply sa 2 seconds squared kay 9.8. Then, maka-cancel si second squared para maging meter na lang siya. So, 0.8 meters VOY 2 seconds minus 9.8 times 2 is 19.6 meters. So yan, nakancel na si second squared. Ngayon, gusto natin na si VOY, nag-iisa lang siya sa isang side. So para magawa yun, dagdagan natin both sides ng equation ng positive value nito, si 19.6. So, plus 19.6 meters. So pag dinagdagan natin ito, negative plus positive value, maging 0 na siya. So maging siyang 0.8 plus 19.6 meters. Sorry, no meters equals VOY in seconds. Yan. So pag simplify natin to, magiging siyang 20.4 meters plus VOY 2 seconds. Ngayon, may kasama pa rin si VOY. Hindi pa siya nag-iisa. Kailangan nag-iisa para ano? Minsan kailangan natin mag-iisa para makapag-isip-isip. Char. So yan, 1 over 2 seconds. Mumultiply natin siya dyan para makancel out to. Ito siya malilipat. So, VOY is equal to 20.4 meters divided by 2 seconds. So, pag divide natin yan, magiging siyang 10.2. Tama? Then, ang label niya is meter per second. So, meron na tayong x and y component. And sa kagaya sa mga vectors, pwede natin siyang gamitin para kunin yung resultant ng dalawang component. So, next page tayo. Yan. So, ano yung value ni x kanina? Dx equals 4.1 meter per second. And si Vy, kasi solve lang natin, is 10.2 meter per second. So, kung gagawin natin siya ng free body diagram, yan. So, hindi pantay. Yan. So, yung gumagalaw daw siya along x-axis ng 4.1 meter per second. And gumagalaw siya along y ng 10.2 meter per second. So yung resultant niya, since pareho silang positive, dito siya belong sa quadrant na to. Ayan. So kung naaalala nyo, ang pagkuha ng resultant, pagkaganyan na lang, x and y na lang, resultant is equal to the square root of the square summation of forces along x plus yung summation ng forces along y pero squared. And so in this case, v is equal to square root of vx squared plus vy squared. So v is equal to, ang x natin is 4.1 meter per second then squared plus 10.2 meter per second. Yan, squared. So, instead na i-plot lang to sa calculus, basta-basta, isa-isahin natin per line para makita nyo kung paano ma-reduce yung unit pabalik sa meter per second lang. So, 4.1 squared is magiging 16.81 meter squared per second squared. Yan. Plus, 10.2 meter per second. Plus, square siya. Magiging siya 104.04 meter squared per second squared. So, yan. Since pareho sila ng units, pwede mo sila i-add. So, V equals square root of 16.8 plus 104 point something is 120.85 meter squared second squared. So ngayon, since square root siya, mare-reduce to into meter per second lang. Then, kukunin natin yung square root nitong 120.85. which is 10.993 meter per second. Yan. Yan, hindi pa tayo tapos. Hindi natin alam kung ano yung angle dito. So, para makuha yung angle, dun tayo sa SOHCAHTOA, which is, for example, itong y component. Let's say, ilipat natin dito temporarily. Ayan. So, kung ito yung hinahanap natin, ito si angle, si x, si adjacent, si y, si opposite, resultant, si hypotenuse. So, kung ang hinahanap natin is angle, pwede natin gamitin is TOA. So, yan. Tangent theta equal siya sa opposite, which is dy over bx. Yan. So, to solve for the angle, arctangent function to dy over bx. So, pag sinolve natin, arctangent 10.2 meter per second over 4.1 meter per second. So, pag plinag-in yan sa calculator, ang magiging sagot is 68.102 degrees. Hindi sabihin ito, 68.102 degrees. So, ang final answer natin, yan. Palit lang ako po ng pen. Oops. Yan yung final answer natin. Pero itong si angle na yan, pag i-express nyo, sasabihin nyo kung paano ba yung ikot niya. Clockwise ba siya? Counterclockwise? So, since papunta siya dito sa y, nagiging siyang counterclockwise from positive x-axis. Yeah. So, para specific tayo. So, ano yung sagot sa problem na yan? May question ba so far? Teka. Kung may tanong kayo, comment lang kayo sa chat. Hindi mahiya. Also, yung naririnig yung background music, hindi sa akin. Sa ate ko yan. Huwag yung kayo judge. So, yan. Last page na tayo, which is page 30. So, ito. A mortar fires a projectile at an angle of 58 degrees above the horizontal with an initial velocity of 60 meters per second. A tank is advancing directly toward the mortar level ground at speed 3 meters per second. So what should be the distance from the mortar to the tank at the instant the mortar is fired in order to score a hit? So, parang nakakatakot tingnan, di ba? Pero huwag mo na kayo matakot. Ang una niyong gawin, sulat niyo lang muna yung mga pwede niyo isulat. So, given. The initial is 60 meter per second. And yung angle niya is 58 degrees. The velocity ng tank is 3 meter per second. Yan. Then, si y initial, kasi sa ground siya, 0. And yung y final, ay 0 din. Kasi, pwede natin sabihin, yes, tataas siya, di ba? Pero babalik din siya sa position na yan. So, walang change in distance vertically. So, 0, 0. Okay. Then, acceleration due to gravity, 9.8 meter per second squared. Yeah. So, gawin natin muna yung free body diagram ni projectile. Yan. So, ito, 60 meter per second. And yung angle niya is 58 degrees. So, meron siyang x and y components. So, kunin muna natin x and y components na yan. Si y component niya, dy, equal siya sa v sine theta. And si vx equal siya sa d cosine theta. So, dy is 60 meter per second times sine 58 degrees. And si Vx equal siya sa 60 meter per second times cosine 58 degrees. Yan. Okay? So, next page tayo kasi crowded na. So, ito yung given dun sa kanina, pero nilagay ko na lang din para dun sa mga formulas na nandyan. So, copy ko lang yung given dito para madali. Ayan. Reload naman ah. So, hindi natin pwedeng gamitin to. Hindi pala ako Yan. Hindi natin pwedeng gamitin to kasi wala naman tayong time. Ito, hindi natin pwedeng gamitin. Actually, pwede pala siyang gamitin. Yeah. Pero huwag natin gamitin yan. Mas gusto kong gamitin to kasi kailangan natin kunin yung time. Dito wala naman time eh. Important yung time. So, gamitin natin second equation. So, copy natin siya. YF minus Y initial equals V initial times time minus 1/2 acceleration due to gravity times time squared. So, substitute values. So, itong dalawang to cancel out kasi 0 sila. So, 0 equals V initial, which is yung value ni Vy kanina, nung breakdown natin siya. So, 60 meter per second sine 58 degrees, which is, kaya natin plot. Kailangan muna natin siya. So, 2 per second sine 58 minus 1/2 imputation gravity meter per second squared. Ay, joke. Nakalimutan ko pala sa time. So time. Skip naman, naka-parenthesis pa siya. Wala ka naman siya. Variable nga lang pala siya. Ano mo na? 9.8 meter per second squared time squared. So, ayan. Simplify natin to para hindi natin siya paulit-ulit na isusulat. So, 60 meter per second sine 58 is nasa ba yan? 50.883 meter per second. It's time. So, baka nagtataka kayo kung bakit naging 50.883 yan. So, naging siya 50.883 kasi nilagay ko sa calculus yung 60 meter sine 58 minus 1/2 9.8 is 4.9 meter per second squared t squared. So, parehong may t. So, actually, from this point, dalawang method na pwede mong gamitin para makuha si t. Pwede kang mag-quadratic equation or itong gagawin ko. Para sa akin, mas prefer ko yung itong method. Okay. So, pwede natin i-factor out yung isang t. 0 equals t 50.883 meter per second minus 4.9 meter per second squared t. Yan. So nakita nyo? So itong t na to, nilabas natin siya. Yung isang t dito, nilabas din natin siya. Yung naiwang isa, yan naging ganyan. Ngayon, pwede natin i-divide both sides ng equation kay t or multiply kay 1 over t. So 0 divided by a number is 0. So kahit ano i-divide mo dyan, 0 pa rin siya. Pero ito, mawawala na to. Cancel out na siya. So 50.883 meter per second minus 4.9 meter per second squared times time. Yan. Ngayon, gusto na mag-isa si time. So lipat natin to sa kabila by adding the positive value niya. So positive 4.9 meter per second squared. Yan. So 4.9 meter per second t equals 50.883 meter per second. Okay, may binasa lang akong chat. So, para mag-isa na talaga si t, divide natin both sides by yung kasama niya. So, 1 over 4.9 meter per second squared. So, cancel na siya dito. So, t is equal to 50.883 meter per second over 4.9 meter per second squared. So, cancel yung meter, cancel yung isang second. So, isang second na matitira. So, t is equal to 10.384 seconds. So, yun yung time. Time para sa projectile, papunta din sa ground. Okay? So, balik tayo sa page 3. Page 13, sorry. Ayan. Ngayon, magkasabay silang gagalaw, di ba? Itong si projectile. Tsaka ito, si tank. Yung time na makakonsume nila, T0, T. Ito, T0. Equal yan. Sabay sila mangyayari or simultaneous. Kumbaga. So since yung pag-usad ni tank papunta dito is yung time na yan, pwede natin siya gamitin para makuha yung distance. And pwede rin natin makuha yung distance nito using that time. So, puntahan yung page 15. So alam natin, velocity is equal to distance covered by time. So, si d of x equals distance na makakover ng tank, or yan, st na lang. St. Kasi sabi ko nga kayo, di ba? S minsan ginagamit siya as distance covered in physics. S. Tapos subscript na t kasi distance na cover ni tank divided by time. So, pag multiply natin siya sa 1 over, actually sa t, hindi pa 1 over t. Distance covered by tank is equal to dx times t. And si dx, given siya. Ang value ni dx, kung naaalala nyo, ito nagbabalik, is, sulit ka lang pala. Dx equals, nasan yun? Ayun. 3 meter per second. So, st equals 3 meter per second times yung time na complete natin, which is 10.384 seconds. So, second, cancel. So, pag pinag-multiply natin, this is covered by TAC is 31.152 meters. Ayan. Paano naman yung distance covered ni projectile? So yung x component na lang yung titignan natin doon. So dy, which is equal siya sa v initial cosine theta. And si dy equals 60 meter per second cosine 58. Yan. So pag sinunod natin yan, it's tama na pala. 1.795 meter per second. Ayan. So, using this formula din, nasabi natin na Vy equals S mortar over time. So, same procedure, multiply natin both sides by time para ma-isolate si SM. Distance covered by mortar is equal to Vy times time. So, Sm equals 1.795 meter per second. Actually, squared pala. Squared na ba siya? Ay, hindi. Tama na pala. Meter per second. Its time is 10.384 seconds. Yan. So, cancel out ulit sa seconds. And Sm equals 361.32 meters. So, yan. So, next page tayo. Pero ika-copy-paste ko lang yung given. Third ha. Ayan. So, meron tayong value na SM and ni ST. So, si SM daw is 361.32 meters and si ST is masa nga ba yun? 31.152 meters. So, kung si S yung hinahanap, given naman yan, S daw, total distance na magkalayo sila, SM plus ST. So, S equals 61.32 meters plus 31.152 meters. So, S equal sa 361.32 meters. Yan. So, yun yung final answer. So, yun lang. Yun lang yung naka-prepare kong sample problems. Kung may tanong kayo, kung may gusto kayong pasagutan, try natin. May tanong ba kayo, guys? Hello? Hi, guys. So, yan. Balik ko na dun sa host natin or yung MC ba yun? Yung right, paano magsalita. So, mag-mute na ako. Thank you guys for listening. Sana may natutunan kayo.
Ayun po. Low. Andito ba sila? Wait lang. So, ayan po. Thank you po sa inyong tatlo. Thank you po sa pagbibigay ng time sa pagtuturo po ng physics sa amin. Rinig po ba ako?
Yes po, dinig naman po.
So, ayun po. Thank you po sa inyong tatlo for sharing your knowledge po and for allotting time para turuan po kami. We know na busy din po kayo since college na kayo, kaya big help po talaga sa amin to. Kasi mahirap na nga po yung physics, tapos online class pa. So we hope po na you all are safe and doing well, and good luck din po sa studies niyo. If meron pa po kayong sasabihin, ito na po yung platform before we end the session po. So if wala naman na po kayong sasabihin, thank you sa lahat ng umattend ngayong gabi.
Hello, may a-add lang ako.
Ayun pa.
Yung sa nag-aabang ng Jamboard, sasabay na lang namin sa Sabado yung pag-posting ng recorded neto, tapos isasamay na rin yung link ng Jamboard. Ayun. Ayun lang. Thank you din sa mga umattend.
So ayun, thank you guys sa mga umattend, and meron ulit tayo bukas sa 2 p.m. And yun lang, kung gusto niyo umattend. Thank you, and yun lang. Good night. Thank you po ulit.
Night na night. Thank you. Sana masarap mga ulam nyo. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you po.
Yan, thank you guys for attending.
Thank you.